Hello everyone. As we know, there is a time for everything under the heavens. There is a time to poet, a time to speak, a time to learn, a time to live, a time to wonder, and a time to believe, and a time to believe. So in today's video, we will be learning. So this will be a video for book readers. So the title of today's video is 10 phrases that every book reader should know. So these words will either be phrases, words, or even abbreviations that are used a lot within the book world. And honestly, I learned these words either from watching other booktubers or just from being an avid reader, a bibliophile, if you will, myself. So let's go ahead and get started with number one. So number one is DNF. So DNF stands for did not finish. There are two different sides to DNF. There's either like a soft DNF, a book that you didn't finish but you'll probably return back to once you have the time, or there's a hard DNF, a book you just did not like and cannot finish anymore. You no longer want to read it, it's no longer interesting to you, so that's the hard pass. It's like a hard pass, a hard DNF. So of course, for any of these words and phrases, let me know down below which ones you use in your everyday book talk, or which words and phrases you did not know, things that you learned today from this video. So number two is TBR. So a TBR is a to be read. These are like stacks or piles of books or just collections of books that you would like to read in the future. So there are different categories for this as well. There is the physical TBR. These are like actual physical books that you maybe bought at a bookstore, maybe you got them from a library and you would like to actually read these books. There's also a mental TBR, books that you just have in your mind, like you're keeping a list in your head of books that you would like to read one day. There's also the digital TBR. A digital TBR can be audiobooks, a list of audiobooks that you would like to listen to, and there's also a digital list. For example, me, I write some books down in my notes app. I have a whole list actually of books that I would like to read one day. That is a part of my digital TBR. Honestly, I have all three, the physical, the mental, and the digital TBR. So let me know what books are on your TBR for this new year. So number three is a book slump. So this is normally when the reader isn't very motivated. They're lacking interest in reading as a whole. Like they're not really finding the books that they're reading enjoyable. They're just going through a bit of a slump in terms of their reading journey. So a lot of creators may do other things. If they're a booktuber or book talker, they may start to showcase more of their other lifestyle content more so than their book content if they're really going through a book slump, because they haven't been reading as much as possible. But I do want to hear from you guys. Let me know in the comments, what are some things that you do when you are going through a book slump? What do you do to get out of that slump? Are there any books that you like to reread to get you out of that slump? Let me know. So number four is mood reading. So some people identify themselves as being mood readers. This just means that they like to read different books based on whatever mood they're feeling. If they're feeling very lovey-dovey, maybe they just got in a new relationship or something, now all they want to read is a romance. Or maybe they feel heavily attracted to the fantasy genre right now. Maybe they just finished Vampire Diaries and want to dive into something similar to that. It really just depends on their mood. Maybe they're really happy or really sad, or honestly anything in between on that spectrum, and they are picking books based on that. I also want to put in an honorable mention of a seasonal reader. So some readers like to read depending on the season. So if a book has a very fall, autumn-esque cover, they will buy that if it's like September or October, so they can get in the fall vibe. There's also those who like Christmas novels, so it is around Christmas time now, so they might get a book with snowman or maybe a Christmas tree, a Christmas lighting, something Christmassy themed to read during the month of December. So it really just depends on the season, and then again on their mood. So number 5 is TW and CW. So TW means trigger warning, CW means content warning. So these are little hints that you may get before the book reader starts talking about a certain book, especially if spoilers are included, just because they want to be mindful of their listeners. They really want to take in consideration that everybody isn't on the same path mentally, and they might not have the mental capacity to be able to receive everything that the book has to offer. Honestly, they may not be in that space where they could read something about certain topics. Maybe they're going through a healing journey and they really can't mentally read something about something that they themselves have been through and haven't exactly fully healed from that situation. So trigger warnings and content warnings are super important, especially if we're talking about heavier subjects, gender-based violence maybe, or maybe just childhood trauma, different aspects of life that could trigger someone. So number 6 on this list is YA. YA just stands for young adult, honestly. YA is a way to categorize a book. A book could be young adult, that's YA, or it could be adult fiction, it could be middle grade. They're just different levels to reading a book, so you really want to understand who the book was written for, like the target audience. So of a YA book, the target audience is honestly for teenagers. The protagonist in that book will most likely be teenagers themselves and or young adults, so they'll probably be in high school or they'll maybe be in college, so keep that in mind. I still read a lot of YA books now, even though I'm 22. Well, that's still college age, girl. That's still college age, but I'm just saying this because even as I get older, I still plan to continue reading YA. Like, I don't believe that it is a hard cutoff, like if you're not in this age range then you shouldn't read this. I think it should go the other way around. Like adult books, some adult books, I don't believe some teenagers or preteens or those younger than that should be reading certain adult books. However, when it comes to YA novels and like middle grade novels, I feel like anybody above that can choose to read it. Like, it doesn't go both ways, but it does go this way, okay? So number 7 on the list is smut. Okay, so trigger warning, I do want to bring that up because I just talked about the importance. I will be talking about some sexual content, so please skip to whatever number I put right here. So when it comes to smut, these are normally very, very, very spicy books. I don't believe that all spicy books or all books that contain smut should be categorized as erotica, but I do believe all erotica has smut in it, okay? So that is just something to keep in mind. I personally was first introduced to this word from Wattpad. I used to read Wattpad, y'all, so long ago. I used to read Wattpad so long ago, and Wattpad had comments at that time. I'm not sure if they still do, but they had comments at that time, and somebody would type in the comments this word smut, and I had no idea what it meant until I started reading the books, and the books that I was reading, they would always comment this. So I was like, oh, this must be what this is about. I honestly didn't think anything of it at that time. It was just the books that I was reading. Every book that I read didn't have smut in it, but there would be some like sexual scenes in some of the books that I was reading on Wattpad. But honestly, right now, at this ripe age of 22, I have since really switched to non-spicy books, just because I feel like too much spice, when it's when it's too much, y'all, I feel like way too much spice can definitely disrupt the plot and the character development. It's like, okay, y'all laid in bed all day, and and what and what happened though? How was the plot moved forward though? I'm not their target demographic anymore, and that's okay. I can live with that, especially since I have started this walk with God. Honestly, y'all, I'm really trying to protect my eye gaze and my ear gaze, trying to protect the things that I consume, things that I'm letting sit on my heart, things that I'm pondering about and premeditating on, so that I can fully walk out this walk and deny myself daily, pick up my cross and follow Jesus. That is what I'm trying to do now. So I've since been reading way more like non-spicy books. It's even gotten to the point where it's like, okay, I will look at some books and then look at different reviews to see what kind of content is in there before I even decide to read it at this point, because I can't read everything. I can't read everything anymore. And that's okay. So if you guys would like a non-spicy books, like romance books recommendation video, please let me know and I'll be happy to supply that. Okay, we have made it to number 8. So number 8 is a trope. So a trope is like a reoccurring theme, a reoccurring plot line that you may have seen across many different books actually. So this could be anything like friends to lovers or second chance romances, but also there are different types of tropes. So there is a plot trope, there can be a character trope, and there can also be a setting trope. So I'm going to describe each of those. Okay, so like we just talked about with the tropes, this is normally when books have similar plot lines, just different character names. Honestly, it's the same ingredients, different cake. Okay, so when it comes to plot trope, like I said before, this could be friends to enemies, it could be second chances, this could be friendship breakups and then they get back together at the end, happily ever after. Just plot lines that you have seen over and over again. But I do want to let you guys know that not all tropes are cliches. However, all cliches were once tropes. So an author can use a trope. I'm not saying tropes are bad. They can use a trope but then make it their own. They can add in a plot twist, something to spice it up a little bit. However, cliches get a bad rep because these are tropes that have been overdone. However, they're the same thing. Like, nothing was really added. It's just literally copy and paste another book, and we're tired of it. We're done with it. It's the cliche at this point. But yeah, so when it comes to character tropes, this could be like having a negative Nancy character, having an optimistic character, having different characters that you have normally seen before, whether it be in a book or it be in a movie or a TV show. This could also be a character trope of having the girl who is super into her corporate baddie era, very much so business minded, focused on her work and her work alone, and then she meets a guy and he's very chill and laid back and he's non-capitalistic and he's gonna teach her about life, and that's gonna be their life together. That's also a trope that I've seen a lot in certain books, but also in movies. A setting trope could be when two people are forced to be under the same roof and we have to see how they're going to navigate this challenge. I think about one of the books that I did end up DNFing. It's more of a soft DNF though. Is it Black Men Who Knits? Good Men Knit by Kawana Jackson. Real Men knit. Okay, so I didn't finish that book, but in that book I think the girl who was like helping the mama who died, I'm sorry, this is spoiling, she eventually came to live with the son because something happened with her apartment building, and now they under the same roof and there's a lot of tension about that. This is the same type of trope that happened in By the Book. However, those storylines are completely different. See, it's the same trope, but the authors can choose to do something different with it. Number 9. So number 9 is called a literary canon. These are normally your books or authors that you will see on school curriculums. These are books or authors that people deem, depending on whatever culture they're in. I can only speak for American culture and American schools at this point, but these are books that people deem as essential readings. You know, like during the summer you would get a summer reading list, and these are the books. Well, a lot of people across the country were reading similar books with similar tropes and storylines because that's what needed to be taught depending on the grade level. Yeah, so a lot of these necessary books could be examples of Shakespeare, like reading different Shakespearean poems, but also his plays and getting to know them. Another thing that we read in school was Homer, the Odyssey. I know some people had to read the Iliad. I don't think we had to read that, but I know some people also had to read, what's the one with the A? The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. Toni Morrison's books, To Kill a Mockingbird, The Giver. These are certain books that are staples that people consider to be staples within the literary realm. Those are called literary canon. Number 10. Okay, thank you guys for making it this far in the video. Number 10 is blurb. Now, during my 9th grade year, we had a professor, and for our book reports, what we had to do every day, we had to read a chapter, and after reading that chapter we had to write a blurb about the chapter. Now, a blurb is like a small, short, sweet, to the point, very concise summary or synopsis of what you just read. So we would summarize, do a little small recap of that chapter that we read, and for our final project we had to write a full book report. So we were allowed to use the different blurbs from each chapter to inform us when writing the book report, which I thought was pretty simple to do. So when it comes to blurbs, these are normally the things you see on the back of the book that tells you what the book is about. That's a blurb. However, I don't want you guys to get confused about blurbs and excerpts. So sometimes on the back of a book it can be an excerpt from the book, like this is something that is actually in the book. It'll normally be in quotation marks. This is something that is from the book that you will see once you start reading the book. A blurb is different than an excerpt. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I wish you all well on your reading journeys. Let me know down below, what book are you reading right now. Don't forget to read my description as well. And as always, grace and peace and mercy and truth to each and every one of you. And I hope you guys remain open-hearted, open-minded, and open-handed to both God and others. Have a great day.